Um, yeah, I mean, I didn't send you anything in advance, but I'm both just genuinely curious, and also I know a lot of people like, especially when I was in high school, college, when you were searching for what's it like I like to create, help other people who are searching for this stuff know what's available.
Yeah, of course.
So let's just start with, well, okay. First, just introduce yourself and then maybe say what internship you did, but then we'll go back to like before that.
Sure. All right. So my name is Joshua Leppert, and for my Disney Professional Internship, I was in Walt Disney Imagineering as a show awareness producer professional intern with the show awareness department.
Wait, that is so cool. I never heard of it. Show awareness. Okay, so walk us back to, what was your passions, interests as a kid, and where did Disney come in line with all that?
Sure. So, professionally, Disney kind of came in later into my entire kind of career path plan. My family was always a Disney family, so probably averaging to about once a year, we came down for vacations, and we were always big fans of the theme parks and stuff like that. But as I got older, kind of, later middle school into high school, we didn't take as many of those big vacations. I think at that point, my brother and I both decided that we were more like thrill seekers than we were like immersive storytelling rides people. I'm from Michigan originally, so our interests moved from like the Disney area to maybe Cedar Point, if people are familiar with Cedar Point. So yeah, that became kind of our home park. So we were just adrenaline junkies from then on. I went to Michigan State University, and while I was there, actually trying to talk to a counselor about a couple of my classes, I saw a flyer hanging up in my college, the College of Communication Arts and Sciences, for the Disney College program that a former CP had kind of just put on the wall. It wasn't anything that the advisors were like advertising, which I found out kind of later, which is a whole other story in and of itself. But I ended up kind of just applying on a whim because I didn't have anything planned that summer. I was a sophomore at that time. And first try, I got in. And that was kind of my foot in the door to know that I would be able to go on and do bigger and better things with the company that are in my field of study, which is film and television production.
Mm. So that's what
That
you were
are
already studying at Michigan State?
correct. Yep, absolutely. So I knew that doing the college program, I wouldn't be able to do any of that kind of like um, camera stuff, any sort of filming. Yeah, you can come in and do photo pass, but it's adjacent, but it's not exactly what I wanted to do. So I just kind of took that as meet as many people as you can, take all of the classes and seminars that you can, try and make a lot of LinkedIn connections, and eventually we'll see what happens down the line. And it all worked out like that.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so my college program was kind of like that. I did one in 2016.
Yep, that was when I did mine.
Oh, no way. Where did you stay?
I was at Vista.
Okay, I was at Chatham Square.
Okay. Yeah, I had friends. Well, I had friends in all of them. A lot of them were in Chatham. So I was on my college program. I was a bus greeter from January through May. And then in May, when I was originally supposed to go home, I wanted to extend. They accepted my extension, but I extended into monorails from buses. So I stayed in transportation, but I got
Mm.
to do both buses and monorails. And then I stayed from May until July in monorails.
Wow. You couldn't leave either. I extended too.
Did
Was
you?
your motivation wanting to stay at Disney or not wanting to go back to school to extend?
No, I loved my schooling. I just wanted to. I knew I had this nice job. I liked where I worked. I liked the perks, obviously. Um, I think it kind of brought me back to the nostalgia of the familial roots of coming on family vacations a ton. So once you got to be down here and living in Disney, I was like, oh boy, I'm gonna have a real hard time leaving. And I'm here now, so
Yes, nicely put. It does feel, especially when you first come down, it like you feel like you're on family vacation, but your family's not there. But
Yep.
okay, so now let's talk about like Disney aside, like your interest of film, television,
Mhm.
like what did you wanted, did you, what got you interested in that as a kid and how did that develop?
Sure. Oddly enough, I think part of that is attributed to Disney kind of indirectly. So my interest in film and television kind of spurred from my dad's interest in creating videos. That was always something he liked to do on the side. He is a doctor by trade, but he had always had kind of a side passion in editing videos and putting together tape edits and stuff like that. So when we were really young, my brother and I, on family vacations, he would take a camcorder and he would just kind of film the family vacations, as a lot of dads do, obviously. But my brother and I would sort of like act and create characters in the family vacation videos to show, people and other family and stuff like that. So we did that throughout the years, but our most memorable ones are the trips to Disney World. So we would play all of our trips to Disney that were on the camcorder and the family videos back, and and create little outtake reels of them after the fact and stuff like that. So we my brother and I, who both have an interest obviously in like video editing at this point, we're just like we both felt that that was attributed to our Disney trips in the past. So
Oh, that's
um,
funny.
well, he hasn't taken that to as much of a career extent that I have. We're both, yeah, that was a big interest in why we had wanted to continue on that path going
Big
forward. So,
impact. So you just,
mm.
so almost like you guys were making vlogs before vlogs were a thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. This was, yeah, way before YouTube, and then eventually, I think we probably did put him on YouTube at some point during our childhood. But yeah,
Oh, sweet. And so you probably loved like like junior high and high school if there was ever a class project that said make a video,
yep.
like make a class group movie, you like that?
Yeah, and that would have been more towards high school. In when I grew up in Michigan, I didn't have a very well, I wasn't like part of a large community. I was a part of a very small class of students throughout my years, and it's different down here, knowing all of the metro Orlando area high schools have huge graduating classes and stuff like that. Could be thousands of kids in one graduating class, which I just find otherworldly because my graduating class was like 89 people. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm so not used to the big, huge schools and communities like they have down here. So I really didn't get too many large digital art programs up until high school. And even when I did, the curriculums were way in the past of what I was doing at that point in time. So I ended up actually helping teachers write curriculums for digital arts classes. We did have a teacher in middle school who put on like a Friday afternoon program, kind of more like a news show for the school that they would watch every Friday, and I was the all-star at that. So that was a huge deal for me to be involved with. And then yeah, that helped my interest kind of tangent its way into becoming more of a film and television professional instead of just more of an interest.
That's so cool. Yeah, and you make a good point, and this is good for people to hear who don't have the opportunities right now. If there's like young people listening,
Mhm.
you do what you can. And that's why when you commented on my thing about what your internship was, I was so excited to interview you because like I've always loved the video stuff too, like
Mhm.
filming, editing. And I do like a lot of music videos now, but I love
Oh, fun.
it's just so fun. And when did you so I guess what part of it all did you always know what part you wanted to do, like the actor, director, filmmaker, editor, or did you just learn by being involved in the process? And what do you like to do?
It was definitely being involved in the process. I love both sides of it, honestly, because I kind of branch out myself now that I'm kind of flying solo with it. So I've got my own video production company here in Orlando, and I freelance now for a bunch of different areas, theme parks and outside of theme parks as well. But part of that in the process of like building your own brand is becoming a face for your brand as well. So originally I was just behind the camera and that was it, because I knew that my interest in being in front of the camera was more, I guess juvenile would be the right word, because I always attributed it to me, acting funny and silly with my brother on those, family home movies and things. But when you're building your own brand, you kind of have to put your face out there. So I do like being in front of the camera now. It took a while to branch out. But once I got started professionally, with the internship and throughout college and stuff like that, you do really get the chance to hone in on what you think you want to kind of narrow your interest down into. So for me, it's cinematography and producing. I do love doing the paperwork for all of the shoots that I undertake. I'm weirdly a big fan of the clerical work when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Um, and then shot composition and setting up the camera, figuring out which lenses I want to use for a certain look and getting the lighting all adjusted. I like to see the final product when it comes to that. So I'm not huge into directing itself. I'll let other people call the shots, but if I know exactly what I want something to look like, then yeah, I'm the man for the job.
Wow. So you like working with the camera,
Yeah,
like in production the most?
absolutely.
So let's talk about the internship. Like, do you remember much about the application process? Because for anyone who doesn't know, these are really hard, like harder than the college program. They
Yeah.
like, the, like it is hard to get in. So tell us what the application process was like.
So I knew that I wanted to go for a professional internship after I was done with college. I wanted to finish college first. And I don't know if it's still the same right now. I'm not 100% sure. You might actually know this better than I do. But I think you still have up to a year after you've graduated college to apply for a PI.
That's what I think too.
Okay. All right. So I knew for a fact I wanted to finish school before I wanted to go get a post-grad internship. In this case, I really wanted it to be with Disney, but I was open to other areas as well. And when I started looking for the Disney internships that I wanted to apply to, I was looking the end of my junior year as opposed to, kind of nearing the end of my senior year, just to see what was out there, kind of put things on my radar, see what the applications looked like, see what the specific companies were looking for. And at this point, besides Disney, it was all of the big studios out in LA and California. So, Amazon Studios, Netflix, Hulu, a bunch of the big production companies like Sony and Touchstone and all those big ones. So I was looking at those well before I was in the area of graduating. But when I looked at Disney's, there were a few on the list where they had videography positions located in Florida, which to my knowledge previously was not something that was really feasible in my mind, just because Disney's usually going to keep all of their videography operations and camera operations, video production as a whole, out in California, because their Imagineering out there is located 2 miles away from the movie studios out in Burbank. So everything is out there. Everything out there is so close to each other. So why would you want to, bring the movie making operation to Florida? And things have kind of changed, but it took a long time for it to do so. So when I was applying to, or when I was looking at internships here in Florida, seeing ones that were videography oriented was a little bit of a surprise. So originally there was Disney live entertainment roles, all of the live streams that they do out in the parks and stuff like that. There was this particular one in Imagineering for the show awareness department, show awareness producer. And then there were a couple other ones for just like internal media for cast members. They have televisions in the break rooms and stuff like that, as you know,
Oh
some
yeah.
of the viewers might. But yeah, that those need media that needs to be produced and stuff like that as well.
Interesting.
So
And then they
so
also have the like ESPN and ABC. Don't those sometimes have some?
sometimes those usually aren't parks-based positions, so they'll probably go to California first, or in the case of ESPN, their headquarters is up in Bristol, Connecticut. So those are usually kind of New York City metro area based. But yeah, it was in essence, it was pretty rare to see video production ones come out in Florida.
Okay.
So once I did, and I saw that there were some opportunities, I made sure to see what exactly it was they were looking for well in advance, just in case if I needed to tailor any of the things that I was doing or make things for my portfolio for people to see, that I could do so well in advance and not like, oh boy, this application is due in 5 days. I need to hurry up and do it. You want to be prepared, obviously. But in my quest to do so, the WDI show awareness internship was just so incredibly tailored to my background and what I was studying, that I ended up applying as a junior, not as a senior.
Wow.
And I went through the entire process, had several interviews, which to this point obviously was more interviews than I had had with any other job position that I have ever applied for. It is a very long process, as you said earlier. It is
Wow.
rigorous.
How
um,
many interviews do you remember?
for this particular one, I had an interview with a general hiring manager for Disney Professional Programs. I had an interview with the hiring manager for Walt Disney Imagineering as a whole, because they have a specific recruiter or a hiring manager for the division. And then I also had an interview with the manager of the show quality standards division, which is the division at WDI, which show awareness kind of resides inside. And then after that, I had a conversation. I got an email from who would be, spoiler alert, my eventual boss. His name is Gary Landrum. He just recently retired. He's an amazing Imagineer, an amazing human. He asked me if I had some time to chat, and on our chat, we just talked about general availability. He was like, "Well, as you know, this is a very it's a very prestigious internship. It's a very tough one to get. We're looking for very specific skills. So when we find somebody with those specific skills, we want to hold on to them for quite a while." And I was like, "Oh, okay. What exactly does this mean?" And WDI internships start out at 3 months. For if they're starting in the spring period over the summer, it starts at 3 months just in case they hire somebody who has to go back to school, but they really want to hang on to you for the maximum amount of time, which for a PI I think is still the case, a year. um, so I had to go back and graduate. I couldn't stay away from school that long. So basically my boss said, "I'm not going to hire you. We'll keep in touch. You need to message me next spring."
Oh,
So
how did you feel at that moment?
at that point, I felt really, really disappointed, but the I knew the entire rest of my college experience, my entire senior year, was just going to kind of be pent up excitement and anticipation for what was to come. So lo and behold, I made sure to keep up with him, everything that I was doing in school, making sure that I was on the right track for exactly what they were looking for. And in the same vein, he was telling me what the intern that they hired was doing, on the
Oh, nice.
programs and stuff like that, which was really neat and unexpectedly nice. And keeping in touch, we made sure that we filled out the application process together, basically, just so, as most of the viewers might know, the applications go through a screening process that is digital first, and then it'll go to a human afterwards if it gets through the
Oh
screening
yeah, it
process.
sucks. You
So
got to know how to work that thing.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's tough, but yeah, we made sure to get through that together so it wouldn't get automatically rejected by the robots. And yeah, we made it through, and he basically, once it got through, and I talked to the people who I needed to talk to, just kind of as a formality, hired me on the spot.
Oh my gosh. So
Mhm.
everyone listening, don't expect that probably, right?
No, 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 absolutely not. Yeah, that
That
was the typical application process was the part that I had as a junior when I officially on paper got rejected for the internship. And then they said, keep in touch. You've got the right skills, just develop a little bit more, and then we'll get you when you have more time, basically.
wow. Okay, so what is show awareness? Why is it called the
Mhm.
show awareness?
Show awareness is the group of individuals in Walt Disney Imagineering who make sure that anything that is built on property that is new adheres to the story of whatever intellectual property that it's following, or adheres to the story that the show writers have written for it. So
Whoa.
every major detail needs to be, Disney-fied. Any historical facts, if it's following historical facts, have to be accurate. We need to make sure that anything that is artistic in its own way needs to be Disney-fied, and we're not facing any like intellectual property copyright claims, things like that. So basically, you've heard of show as one of the main five keys now. Show awareness Imagineers are kind of the show police, if you will.
Oh, so it's not really just for like the plays and parades. It's for literally
It's
the
for
show of the
everything.
parks.
Yep, yep.
Oh,
If we notice on some rock work inside a queue line for an attraction is crumbling or out of place, it just looks bad. Obviously, it could be a safety hazard. We're the people that have to identify that and document it and make sure that it gets to the right people to fix it.
wow.
Yeah.
So when you say things, make sure it follows the Disney story. Like, for example, the new Princess and the Frog ride
Mhm.
would that department be on top of that to make sure it's
Yes.
wow.
Yeah, so in that case, show awareness would have many, many meetings with the producers, the story writers, the directors, and anybody who would be a liaison from the Disney Studios team from the Princess and the Frog movie, about making sure all of those details that we put into the ride are the same ones that are from the movie and nothing is out of place whatsoever. So everything that is in the movie, none of it really can be changed. And we have to make sure that our story writers for the ride on the Imagineering side have all the right pieces to put that into place.
Okay. Wait, so if it's about all the park, why is it a film internship if it's
So yeah, my place in show awareness as an intern was kind of interesting because I was kind of my own person. I supported the entire show awareness team, but nobody else on the show awareness team had the exact role that I did. And this is why. Um, the big wigs in show awareness, and I'm talking about my boss and another producer because we had a department of three people. They have to deal with all of the story for every piece of property at Walt Disney World, and even more so than Walt Disney World when I was there, because that was when it was split into um, Disney Parks East and Disney Parks West. So eventually, everything that was kind of in the Pacific region, including Disneyland, California Adventure, all of the Asia parks over there, and then the studios and stuff like that, that would be Imagineering in Glendale, where they have their headquarters, Glendale, California. And then everything in the Atlantic side, Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris, and the Disney Cruise Line would be handled by the Florida Imagineers. So my bosses had their hands full, which means they were paperwork people. They had to make sure to know a lot of details about the parks. And if they didn't know it, they had to get to the bottom of who did, which story is it in, what Imagineers might know this information, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas the tasks that they didn't want to do, which was all of the documentation and the archival work, that fell to the intern, aka me, in this situation. So a lot of my duties were, whenever we had a new thing happening on property, I would have to go take a camera out and film it and create a video about it, about the story of its construction, about why it's being constructed, what is the specific story of the attraction or the hotel. And I would get the chance to interview Imagineers who worked on it in a whole bunch of different disciplines, that they would be able to show to Imagineers in the future about the story, and making sure the story is 100% correct if they needed to fix something down the line, things like that. So basically, I created videos for things on property that Imagineers 30, 40, 50 years in the future would be able to watch and make sure to fix things correctly if they needed fixing.
That is amazing. That is
Mhm.
like so important.
Yeah,
Like
very much so.
your work is like in the Disney vault.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Wow. Okay, so wow, now I just have like a million more questions, but
Ask away, ask away.
well, I'm sure you had a ton of, I'm sure you met a ton of cool people or interviewed people.
Yep.
I guess what one question is, what's one of your favorite projects that you heard about of no, this is my question. What's something that impressed you that like someone reported something and then they went to work and you're like, wow, they care about that much detail? Like, can you think of
Mm.
something like that?
Yeah, there were a few times. So, in my department, obviously being the show police, we were encouraged, as show awareness team members, whenever we were in the parks for like leisure, if we noticed that anything was out of place when we were like riding the rides and stuff like that, we would have paperwork that we would submit and make sure that it was taken care of pretty soon. So I would just kind of keep my eyes out for whenever people were complaining about rides. I would kind of just like listen up to their conversations. If they were having kind of a bad day, I wanted to figure out why. If it was something, if they were just coming off a ride and they were disappointed, then I would be very, very interested in that. I think my favorite instance of this is the first time it ever happened. I was maybe a week on the job at this point, kind of just out of training, and I was riding Spaceship Earth. And it was something that I had noticed on Spaceship Earth that the family right behind me noticed as well. And it was the smallest little watermark in the scene as you're going kind of close up to the top, where you're going through the movie theater and they're showing the clips of Jesse Owens in the Olympics. And the projector that was playing the Jesse Owens clips, it was the bulb inside the projector. There's a number of hours on the bulb, and the projector will tell you when it needs to be replaced. And there's just this little tiny flag in the corner that says bulb hours, like very high, it needs to be replaced, or something along those lines, like needs maintenance now, something along those lines. And it was barely noticeable, but the family behind me noticed it, and it apparently they're frequent visitors, and it took them out of the magic, so to speak. And they were just like, I wonder how long that's been there. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, this kind of looks bad on me now as an Imagineer. So I texted my boss about it, and quite literally, I think that was a Sunday. I was there on the weekend. Quite literally, the next day, I was on my lunch break, kind of walking through the park, and somebody had mentioned to me that they had fixed it. So I checked my phone. I think my boss texted me that it was like, maintenance got that, so we're good now. So on my lunch break, I was like, I need to see this for myself. I had to go ride it and stuff like that. And yeah, it was totally fixed. And
Just like that.
yep, just like that. And I
Wow.
was like, this is part of the process. This is so cool. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
That's so cool. I mean, like that's what makes the difference when you go to Disney so often and then you go to like another random park in another state. You're
Mhm.
like so appalled by all these details that they don't have fixed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I know things, and In different parks, obviously it's a different story with their maintenance and all that kind of stuff. At Disney it's really expected, but I do want to preface, obviously some things are easier to fix than others, like replacing the bulb on a projector. That's an easy fix. Other things have to deal with budgets and all that kind of stuff, so it's
True.
not always going to be that simple. So when families say that the magic is ruined, you always kind of have to pick your battles, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh my, yes. I mean, it does suck that the expectations are so through the roof because
Yeah.
in my college program, I was a hostess and um like the one thing that would ruin people's well, it would ruin people's day when we were running past the time and they had a reservation. And I
Hmm.
was like, I'm sorry that Disney allows more bookings than we have room for. So I'm
Yep.
like, some people could not comprehend it. They're like, I have a reservation at 3:45. I'm like, I know, but it's full. They're like, no, but I have a reservation. And which any with outside of Disney, it would make sense, but at Disney, it doesn't make sense to them.
Yep. Yeah, well, the guest service at that point, it's not up to my expectations. That's the house that Disney's built, honestly.
Yes. Okay, so just like if someone, people in high school want to do the internship, whether you're specifically or like generic, what do
Mhm.
you notice about people that they hire or that they look for?
That's a really good question. I think Imagineering specific, I didn't have a whole lot of interest in quote unquote themed entertainment, which is the art behind creating a theme park. So my job would fall under that category at Imagineering, obviously. I didn't have a lot of that knowledge previous to my internship. I knew I was interested in Disney stuff, and I knew that they needed a videographer for this internship. But um, once I figured out that they were looking for somebody a lot more themed and entertainment centric, um, I'm glad I looked at it when I was a junior and not a senior, because then I tailored all of my expectations to what I wanted to put on my resume towards themed entertainment. So a lot of it is external networking, which I did a lot of. I got on LinkedIn. It's a big one. Hopefully, you guys out there have heard it a lot. You need to make LinkedIn connections. And hopefully, you get a few people who accept your request and will let you ask them questions about what it is that they're doing, which is
So
something I got
for that
to do a lot of.
specifically, do you recommend not just like friend requesting them on LinkedIn, but did you send them a message after they accept you?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. As that was the goal. As soon as they accept the request, I would make sure to introduce myself. Just say, "Hi, I'm a prospective Imagineering intern. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions about your job specifically? Or I've got a few questions about maybe becoming an intern. Do you mind if I ask them?" Um, and more often than not, especially I've found in more like creative careers, they will absolutely be willing to help. So that was a big one for me, was LinkedIn. And hopefully you've heard a lot about LinkedIn, because it definitely works. Once you make those professional connections, a lot of doors will open for you. So that I think is the biggest thing that I would be able to um, give as a piece of advice, is utilize LinkedIn, utilize your external networking, and then once they've accepted you, then ask as many questions as possible.
That's awesome. Yeah, you did a lot of, and you set yourself up as a junior, like by going through that process, you were able to tailor your last year even more. And that's really smart too. Like don't wait till you're about to apply or something.
Yeah.
And do you think that the Disney College program like helped you connection wise or just like mentally because you're like, I know I like being here.
Um, I think it's a little bit of both, but it's mostly getting into the mindset.
Yeah.
I did make connections while I was on the college program because I did take a lot of courses. But if many of you are out there who have done the CP before and have taken those classes, Walt Disney Imagineering does not give any instruction for those classes. They've got much more than that to worry about on their plate. So I did meet a few people who kind of were adjacent to my role. I met a few people in Disney's Yellow Shoes marketing creative group. which is the marketing and advertising group that they have that produces like television commercials and things like that. And then a few people in like general leadership, and more so live entertainment adjacent roles that do the shows and the parades and things like that in the parks. But I didn't really meet anybody from Imagineering while I was on my college program. But the thing that I did learn was that I wanted to be down here in Florida working for the parks, one, and two, I knew that there was a world outside of working specifically inside the theme parks at Disney. There's this big, huge support staff that is beyond the gates of all the parks, working in offices that help make the magic too. So once I found out that there was videography in those roles, then I obviously wanted to make sure to get inside there.
Wow, you're like, okay, that's really well said. I know a lot of people in the college program, some people use it for a break, some people are like, wow, there's so much opportunity. And
Mhm.
okay, so if people have questions about videography or PI, can they reach out to you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. I welcome it 100%.
Perfect. And I'll include that in the links of where I post this.
For
Okay,
sure.
now a few rapid fire questions that are more
Ooh,
just
okay.
fun Disney questions. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Disney resort?
Ooh, Old Key West.
Oh, nice choice. Favorite Disney restaurant on any property, Disney.
Oh, that's such a good question.
You can say like two or three.
I'll give you one. I'll stick to the parameters. Mine's a cop out. It's going to be Steakhouse 71 because my favorite was the Wave, and then Steakhouse 71 took over the Wave.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, favorite Disney song from a classic Disney movie.
Um, wow, these are really good questions. I wish I had came more prepared. Um,
Always a hard question.
yeah, that's a tough one. Okay. Curveball. Hawaiian roller coaster ride from Lilo and Stitch.
Let's go.
I've got a lot of personal history with the state of Hawaii, and I love that movie. So.
Me too. Oh, so
Oh,
I did an internship on Front Street, so I've just been like devastated now.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, we can talk about that later. Um, okay, so resort. Okay, so let's say that you got to go on a ride over and over with no wait. What ride would you go on?
Tower of Terror.
Ah, nice choice, nice choice.
Mhm.
Um, and my last one is, well, actually, have you been to any Disney park besides Disney World?
I have, yes. So I've been to Disneyland a couple times, and then actually just this January, I took a personal fun trip out to Tokyo. So I got to go to Disneyland and Disney Sea out in Tokyo. And Tokyo Disney Sea is my favorite park of all time.
Me too, me too.
Yeah.
It's like I've been to that one. I haven't been to Paris or the other ones, but Disney
Mm-mm.
Sea, like I couldn't contain that excitement.
Yeah. It
Oh,
is gorgeous. For any Disney fans, Tokyo Sea has got to be on your bucket list.
yes, yes. Um, any final thoughts that you just had, like, oh, I should mention this, or I want to share this, anything?
Um, I think a lot of questions that I get actually when people ask me about my former Imagineering experience is, are you working there now? And if not, why? That is always a big one. I take this question with a grain of salt because I desperately do want to be back at Imagineering. Like if they offered a full-time thing for me, I would definitely take it. However, I'm in a fun position right now where I get to work for myself, set my own schedule, and work with who I want to. And I still get to work with the parks, even though I'm not employed by them. So anything can happen. But yeah, I had my entire internship. I extended it out the full year that I could have. And then because my department was so small, I didn't have the opportunity to come on as a full-time employee because we just didn't have the budget for it in our department. So I would have to kind of move around or tailor my expectations somewhere differently to try and make it work full time. But it eventually did pan out because I still get to do videography work for them. I'm just working with my own company, basically doing it now.
So
So
it's like contracted third party type of thing?
yep, exactly. So I'm not a green badge, but the company who I contract through is a green badge freelance company. So
Oh.
yeah,
And what
I'm
will they
not.
have you film now?
It's basically the same things that I did as an intern. When I was an intern, with all the like the construction documentation and stuff like that, if we had a bigger job that we needed done that needed more than one camera, we would hire an outside video production agency. And there are several that we worked with throughout downtown Orlando. And I'm doing that now as a preferred video production vendor as well.
Oh, that's super cool. So it
Mhm.
kind of is the best of both worlds.
It
Speaking of
is.
that, yeah. Your services, like who do you work for? Like, go ahead and pitch your company if you want right here.
Sure thing.
Love freelance.
So my production company is called Sunshine Media Marketing and Events. And I am a video production provider and live event producer in the greater Orlando, Florida area, but I go all over for video production stuff. In live events, I provide cameras and all video production related equipment if you need it for big trade shows, conferences, stage shows, whatever. And I am a full service video production provider from pre-production to post-production. If you need a highlight video made, if construction documentation videos need to be made, social media videos, anything like that.
Wow, that is Orlando's a good place for that. I'm already
Yeah.
like, I need you for this and this and this. Awesome. Oh my gosh. Okay, Sunshine. Say it again. Sunshine.
Sunshine Media Marketing and Events. My website is sunshinemedia.me.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here today. And everyone, go check out all of his stuff. I'm going to go do that.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.